on because I always have trouble with your last name. Thank you for hosting us. Now, I always get it a little mixed up. We're here in the Navy facility. Is the Navy a part of the Marines? Actually, one of your Marine colleagues today here told me that the Marines represent the men's department of the Navy. You know that person, right? Well, my mother did a nice job on that video, don't you think? I wish she'd lived to see that. She would have believed every word of it. Now, my dad, who was in Patton's Third Army in World War II, I'm not so sure about Dad, but Mom certainly would have. And Raymond, I want to thank you for not telling the score of that Air Force Carolina football game in the Gator Bowl of '63. No one here remembers it. I've been trying to forget it for 50 years. 50 years, last December 28. Can it possibly be? I was a halfback out at the Air Academy, and this last game took place against one of my home state teams, University of North Carolina, and well, I just thought that'd be the greatest way in the world to end 11 years of organized football. Well, as tradition would have it, after the game, they gave us a watch. It had a little football and an alligator in the middle of it. And every time I looked at mine, it read 35-0. Sir, don't blame me for not laughing. No, that was the score of the ball game. We didn't think it was too funny either. Now, that season was not a total loss. We don't have any Nebraska fans here that would admit it, do we? Any Big Red fans? Well, that's good, because you'll like this story. We, meaning this little Air Force team, traveled to Lincoln, Nebraska the fall of '63. About mid-October, Nebraska was undefeated, nationally ranked. We were unranked. We didn't have a chance of being ranked. We're outweighed over 50 pounds per person. We won that game in the last 2 minutes. Now think about it. To beat the Big Red in Lincoln when they're undefeated and in the top 10, we had to get out of town in a hurry. It's the only game Nebraska lost, '63 season. They beat Auburn in the Orange Bowl. They ended up number 5 in the nation. We denied them the national championship. Some people like to applaud at this point. So you see, the impossible is sometimes possible, right? There was no way. We had absolutely no chance. It was totally impossible, and somehow we did it. The impossible is sometimes possible. And of course, we've been proving that, especially our military, throughout all of our history. And you are going to have to prove it as we go forward into the future, because it's never, ever been more important. Another reason I'm happy to be here, April of 1972, I really shouldn't have made it. On my very first mission over Hanoi, 16 April 72, there were 3 SAM. Some of you might know that's a surface-to-air missile about the size of a telephone pole. They were accelerated up at our airplanes at about 1,600 miles an hour. They would proximity fuse, detonate, and be lethal, be deadly within about 150 feet. And on my very first mission, 3 of them came within 100 feet of our airplane, failed to go off, failed to detonate. Thank goodness for that Soviet quality control. Would you agree? But there were many other times, and really had it not been for thousands and thousands of people in the entire military and civilian support community who were proud of their work, who performed it in a professional, outstanding manner. Steve Ritchie would not be a fighter race, and I probably would not be alive. So as you can imagine, I'm pretty thankful, pretty grateful. I feel very fortunate to receive so much of the credit that belongs to so many who helped make it all possible. There are many fighter pilots who could have done what I did, but we had a unique opportunity in the air combat arena, and there were some reasons for our success at the time given that opportunity, and you know what they are: preparation, teamwork, discipline, dedication, education, training, communication, enthusiasm, after lunch, isn't it? Attitude, 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 will, determination, integrity. And surely most will agree that those are the elements, the ingredients, the keys that go into the makeup of what? Success, achievement, quality, excellence, top gun performance in anything that we do, personal or professional. So in the final analysis, it's people and a wide array of support functions who are trained and motivated and ready and willing to do the job, who ultimately make it possible for us to win rather than to lose, to succeed rather than to fail, and sometimes to live rather than to die. And that gets to be pretty important, doesn't it? General Patton said, we fight with machinery, but we win with people. We win with people. And I really am convinced that people can and will do great things. They'll reach for the stars when motivated by inspired leadership. I'd like to tell you for just a few minutes about three of the great leaders that I had the wonderful privilege to fly with and work for. The wing commander at Udorn, Thailand in 1972 was a young colonel named Charlie Gabriel. 10 years later, he was chief of our Air Force. The vice wing commander was Jerry O'Malley. He became the vice chief. He was commander of Pacific Air Forces and then commander of Tactical Air Command when he was tragically killed in an airplane accident in the spring of 1985. He would surely have been the chief. There was an Army one-star there with whom we worked. Began his career in the enlisted ranks of the Minnesota National Guard. Became chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Jack Vesey. These three people, these three individuals had that, I don't know what you call it. I talk about it so much I don't know what to name it. It's that special quality, I guess, that inspires the desire for excellence in almost everyone who's around. You know people like that? We'd have done almost anything for Charlie Gabriel, Jerry O'Malley, Jack Vesey. And I know a lot of people find this next statement hard to understand. Maybe some of you will understand it. Maybe you know it to be true. I would have died for them. So would many of my colleagues. And some did. Some did. That's a pretty special brand of loyalty, isn't it? Because I tell you what, there are a lot of people I don't feel that way about. A whole lot of people. What is it? Have you thought about it very much? What is it that commands such loyalty? Well, a part of it is we admired them. We respected them. We loved them. We did. We'd have done almost anything for them. And yet, maybe more important than anything else, we knew that loyalty cut both ways. We knew when things really got tight, when we got into a jam, into a bind, we could count on them just as much as they knew they could count on us. That loyalty cut both ways. And it's so important for us to think about what is it in others that inspires us to do our best and to be our best. And then try to be that way for those who look to us for leadership and guidance and counsel and inspiration. It's kind of like the author who wrote, I love you not only for what you are, but for what I am when I'm around you. For what I am when I'm around you. Don't you see, we were better people when we were around Charlie Gabriel, Jerry O'Malley, Jack Vesey. We did a better job. We worked harder, communicated better, more productive, more creative. You know what else? We had a heck of a lot more fun. Because it is fun to work for people like that, isn't it? Those of us in leadership and management and supervisory positions have such important responsibilities because we have either a very positive, a very mediocre, or a very negative effect on people and the lives of people. That's what performance, productivity, creativity, communication, bottom line mission accomplishment. And it's more important today than it ever has been, isn't it? When we need to be as productive, in most cases now with fewer resources. It's never been more important. Bill Danforth, the founder of Ralston Purina, always used to challenge the people in his company to stand tall, to think tall, to smile tall, and to live tall. Aren't these the kind of people we have in the room here today? Why? Because you're up, you're proud, you're happy, you're courteous, you're creative, you communicate better, you like to work. I know it's a new concept in many quarters these days, isn't it? Unfortunately, you like to work. And that spirit is contagious. In the score for Vagabond King, Rudolph Frimmel wrote, "Give me 10 who are stout-hearted, and soon I'll give you 10,000 more." That spirit is contagious. Now, many ask about the 8th of July, 1972, when we downed 2 MiG-21s in a minute and 29 seconds. Because it's such a great example of how all of the elements of the team effort come together to produce an incredible victory. Well, the last thing that happened that morning before we taxied is the crew chief came up the ladder to let me know we didn't have any film in the camera. We're in an F4E model with a gun and a gun camera. Most of the time I was in a D model without a gun camera. I said, "What do you mean, Chief, there's no film?" He said, "We're out of film. There's no film on base." I thought about that for a moment. I said, "I guess it's okay. I doubt we'll see MiGs today anyway." See, we never know, do we? We never know what's just around the corner. We never know what's just over the horizon. And that's why it's so important to be as prepared as we can possibly be in every area in our lives, because we never know, and we need to be ready. And that's why we're here today. That's why you're in school, is to prepare, because we never know, and we need to be ready in every area in our lives. And today is probably more critical than at any time in our history. Think about the fact that millions and millions of young people all over the world, as we speak right now, are being taught to hate us and to kill us, to convert us or to eliminate us. Ladies and gentlemen, we must not fail. And whether we like it or not, whether the main media likes it or not, whether Republicans and Democrats and conservatives and liberals like it or not, whether high school teachers and college professors like it or not, we're in combat. We're in combat. And it's a war of good versus evil, right versus wrong, freedom versus slavery, civilization versus chaos. And we must not fail. In my opinion, free people and free institutions all over the world have never been threatened more. We must not fail. More importantly, you must not fail. Now let me spend just a few more minutes, and then we'll get to the very best part of our program. Let me spend a few more minutes to tell you about the most thrilling and exciting and challenging and heartwarming mission that ever flew, where an even greater team effort resulted in a much greater victory. And it was the rescue of Roger Locker, L-O-C-H-E-R. Roger Locker was shot down on the 10th of May in 1972, and for 22 days there was no word. We carry survival radios right here in our survival vest, one on each side, lots of extra batteries, because there's no way to make that rescue without the communication link. Proper communication, so important in every single thing that we do, every day, all day long, isn't it? Think about the problems caused, the time, the money, the effort, the resources wasted by miscommunication. It's unbelievable. We went back in that afternoon and called on the radio. There was no answer. Went in for days thereafter. There was never any reply. We finally decided that he must have been killed or captured. Yet he never came out on a captured list that the North Vietnamese like to publish every few days. Well, 22 days later, we were flying in the same area. There was a break in the radio chatter. You can imagine with 20 or 30 people all on the same frequency, all trying to talk at the same time, particularly when they're shooting at you. Does it get a little busy, would you guess? Anyway, there's a break in the radio chatter. Call came over the air. Any Allied aircraft? This is Oyster 01 Bravo. I remember thinking, Oyster. We don't have an Oyster call sign today. And then we realized that's Roger Locker. We answered him. That's exactly what he said. He said, guys, I've been down here a long time. Any chance of picking me up? Pretty cool, huh? I don't believe I'd have been that cool after 22 days, do you? We said, you bet. You bet. Went back to our respective bases that afternoon, quickly planned a rescue mission. We came back in. He was 5 miles off the end of the runway at Yen Bai Airfield, some 60 miles northwest of Hanoi. The deepest rescue ever attempted. But the ground fire from around Yen Bai was so heavy that we had to back off. We couldn't get him out. Went home that night, as you can imagine, we're pretty down, pretty frustrated. This is our friend. This is someone most of us knew very well. He was on his third combat tour, over 400 combat missions. Not only did we admire and respect him greatly, but he was one of the neatest young men that many of us ever met. Now we'd found him. After all this time, now we knew where he was, we couldn't get him out. Of course, now they knew where he was. And very soon he would be captured. Well, the next morning, in one of the great examples, in my opinion, of courageous combat leadership, General John Vogt, VOGT, the four-star commander of 7th Air Force in Saigon, in consultation with General Fred Wyan, the Army commander, canceled the entire strike mission to Hanoi and dedicated every single resource, including over 150 airplanes, to the rescue of Roger Locker. We went in for about 2 hours. We made sure that the guns at Yen Bai Airfield were silenced. Then a young 27-year-old Air Force Academy graduate, Captain Dale Stovall, class of '67, commanded the lead of 2 Jolly Green Giant helicopters. I'm always so proud to tell this story because, you see, Dale was a freshman when I was a senior at the Air Force Academy. You guessed it. I had a lot to do with his summer training program his first year. Dale commanded the lead of those 2 Jolly Greens, came in the PJs, sent the jungle penetrator down through a heavy canopy of trees, and snatched Roger Locker as he was about to be captured. Selected full power, pulled him out of the jungle into the helicopter. They headed out. We flew cover. With the 2 Jolly Greens, their C-130 refueling tankers, as they made their way out of North Vietnam. Brought him all the way back to Udon, Thailand. General Vogt flew up in a T-39 from Saigon. It was the first of several hundred of us to meet him as he stepped off that chopper after 23 days. The flight surgeons, the doctors, the nurses, the medics, the chaplains quickly took him off to the hospital. But they did say he could come to the club that night. 1900 hours, 7 p.m. for 30 minutes, and the word spread. And the club was totally jam-packed. And at 7 p.m., Roger Locker, washed, fed, shaven, and dressed in a uniform that we used to call our party suit. Walked in the front door. Applause broke out that lasted for over 20 minutes as he made his way through the crowd, shaking hands with friends. A magnificent experience of human emotion. An incredible victory. A total force joint rescue victory against all odds, with no losses. And when we think about that and analyze it and compare it, say, to the theme of that movie, Platoon, which suggested that we shoot each other in the back. And then we come to fully understand the effort to which we will go, the resources we will commit, the risks that we will take to rescue one crew member, one American, one ally. Isn't it a very powerful statement about what kind of people we are? About the value that we place on life, on freedom, and on the individual. And about the marketplace in which we all operate, which is defined by tremendous respect for the individual and for economic freedom. And of course, as you know by now, without economic freedom, we ultimately lose all other freedoms. You see, Jim, this is what I think it's about. The real mission, yours and mine, business, government, civilian, military, is to protect and preserve an environment, a climate, a system, a way of life where people can be free to reach their full potential. As our friends in the Army used to say, be all that they can be. Well, as you can imagine, I could go on and on. When you give a fighter pilot a microphone, Jim, it's hard to limit it to 30 or 45 minutes. I mean, we're sort of like Italians and Romanians. As long as we can use our hands, we can just keep on going. But this is by far the best part. For the next 10 or 15 minutes, Mariana is going to tell you what it was like to grow up 20 years under communism, living under a brutal communist dictator, dreaming of America, dreaming of the American flag, dreaming of the American way of life, and hoping that someday the American military would come to rescue her.
Thank you. At first sight, I'm just a general's little wife. But beyond all that, I am the oppressed that you rescued, and the American who fights alongside you to keep our freedom from slipping through our fingers. While American children were learning to love and trust themselves, we learned to hate, trust no one, control every word we said, because our life depended on it. We waited in line for hours for a piece of bread, sometimes even days. The communists believed in spreading the wealth, take from the ones who have and give to the poor. That paralyzed the economy because the ones who had didn't want to work anymore when it was all taken away from them. The poor didn't want to work because they were getting something for nothing, and that was only until they ran out of other people's money. Guns were illegal because unarmed people are easier to oppress and control. Knowing that my grandfather was a priest, I was threatened with all kinds of things for going to church, and that only made me go to church more. And it was not courage, it was despair. I wanted to provoke them, and I wanted them to come and kill me and get it done and over with. God was not allowed in schools. We were not allowed to say Merry Christmas. We had to say Happy Holidays. We could not say Christmas trees. We had to call them holiday trees. The socialist healthcare killed many. It was supposedly free, but nothing's free in this world. Somebody will always pay, and it's usually we, the people. The doctors were paid so little by the government that they were not looking at you unless you're bribing them, so you ended up paying more. One of my first memories as a child was holding the hand of a dying man, and my grandmother crying, saying, "There's nothing more we can do for him, just help him die." I can still feel his hand getting cold and stiff in my hand, and I remember thinking how quickly it happened. and the look of death in his eyes is still haunting me. All he needed was a simple surgery, which here in America is an outpatient surgery. There he wasn't worth saving because he was too old and he was in his 60s. The communists also hated excellence and success. They wanted everyone to be equally poor because it was easier to control people that way. And what they were doing, they were taking away people's dignity because the message was, well, you're not good enough to take care of yourself. I have to do it for you. But here to the younger generation, I'd like to emphasize the fact that nobody in this world can take care of you better than yourself. You have the power. Do not give it away to anybody, no matter what they promise you. One of the dreams I had when all was lost, we felt even forgotten by God at times, was I had a picture of the American flag, the symbol of freedom. So I would take it out and stare at it and dream of America and what it's like to be free, to eat a hamburger or cheesecake, or to walk in Central Park. I got caught in class, and the teacher came trying to take the flag away from me. I did not surrender it. In spite of all the pressures and threats, I was ready to die because life had no meaning without freedom. But I couldn't afford to lose the hope, and that's all I had. The hope that someday Americans are going to come and blow us up. Blow up every brick, every stone, every board until there was nothing left standing. You see, I was a part of such a corrupt and evil system that I felt that even I wasn't worth saving. And we would have given the Americans anything in exchange for freedom. All the gold in the mountains, all the oil in southern Romania, our life and hearts. It's really important for you to hear and be aware of your government. Keep an eye on them, no matter who is out there, and hold them responsible. It's not easy for me to put myself out there and share my pain with you, but I feel it's really important. Because when you're out there and you run the country and you have the power, I want you to think of me and learn from other countries' mistakes and do not try this socialism, communism. I've heard that even here in America, that we can have a better communism or socialism. It's like saying you can have a better cancer. It's evil. Please don't even try it. You're going to save yourself a lot of pain and heartache. There's another thing I need to set the record straight about. Vietnam. We've heard so many times that Vietnam was in vain, that American soldiers died for nothing, that we had no business being there. With every move Americans made in Vietnam, we behind the Iron Curtain felt the Soviet grip lose its strength, and it gave us time to breathe and stay alive. Because you kept them busy in Vietnam, they lost track of us. And there's no more evil empire, thanks to you. As a little girl, I didn't dream of Prince Charming coming on a white horse to carrying me off to his castle. I knew I needed a lot more than that. I needed an American fighter pilot that would come on a fighter jet, blow up everything, and carrying me off to America. And I'm the luckiest woman alive to have found him. And honored to spend the rest of my life with him, loving him and taking care of him. By the time I came to America, I was numb. I wasn't dead, but I've never really been alive either. Because that's what oppression does to you. It slowly kills your spirit first. And only after that, it takes away your life. It's like living with a plastic bag over your head. You can't see and you can hardly breathe. And what makes it worse is the fact that you hear that somewhere far away, in a wonderful land called America, there is better. We spent one night in New York, and I was overwhelmed by all the wonderful things I saw. The fancy cars, the clothes, and the shoes. I haven't seen a diamond till I came to America. The skyscrapers, all shiny, grand, steel, marble, and the food. And I had nothing. We came with a bag of clothes, not a penny in our pocket, and didn't speak English. Yet, we were not bitter one bit. We were proud to be a small part of a country they could have and make such wondrous things. And all those things were a promise that someday we can have all that. We can have it all. And I do now. You are light years ahead of me because you're born here. You can do a lot more than I could even dream of. You took us in when we were outcasts in our own country. You taught us the meaning of new words like kindness and happiness and joy. And there's one more thing I would like to mention for the younger generation when you run the country. Can you please put an end to celebrating diversity? Instead of focusing on what separates us, focus on what brings us together as one. I have to tell you, no, immigrants come to America to be free, to get away from government, to live the American dream. If we wanted to celebrate diversity, we would have stayed where we were. Thank you for listening to that. And now I would like to put a face to the oppressed from all over the world and say a thank you. Thank you for everything you've done. I know in your darkest moments, you're wondering if it was all worth it. It is worth it. And I want to say, oh yes, it makes a big difference. The world's a better place because Americans are in it. Americans are the best because they're the only ones who fight for other people's freedom, people who they don't even know, and they will never meet. And they never ask for anything in exchange. Maybe just a little place to bury their dead. So thank you for everything. Be proud. Do not listen to what the news are talking about. Because America is loved all over the place, but millions of oppressed people who are hoping that someday you're going to go rescue them next. So thank you for everything you've done, you're doing, and you will be doing, not only for our country, but for the world. It makes all the difference in the world. God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you very much, Mariana, for your remarks. Steve, thank you too. No, they're a great team, aren't they? They really are. And let's give them a round of applause. We've got about 5 minutes until the next session, so let's take a question or two, okay?
I begin?
Sure.
Okay, yes, I do have a question for awesome presentation by both of you. But for General Ritchie, you spoke about a very beautiful concept, loyalty. And over the yesterday and today, we hear stories, beautiful stories about how our great servicemen don't let their fellow servicemen down. They're always there. So that loyalty is very, very touching. But I was just wondering if you could say something about trust. I don't know if you would categorize trust as being the same as loyalty, how that played into it. Is that a part of it?
Well, certainly trust has to do with integrity, and integrity underlines everything that we do. If our word is no good, what else is there? There is nothing else. So all of those great qualities, loyalty, teamwork, discipline, responsibility, it's all tied together by integrity. And those who are here from a lot of the great schools and universities, you understand that well because you live by a code of honor, which is basically a code of integrity. We have to count on each other. We depend on each other, not only to accomplish the mission, but to live or die. My son is an Air Force PJ, which is the Air Force version of the SEALs. And I don't know how they do it, but I'm sure glad they do, because particularly as someone who flew fighter airplanes, we knew that when and if we went down, that they would make every effort. They would go to every effort, they would take every risk to come and get us. It's a matter of our code, it's a matter of our honor, it's a matter of our teamwork, our discipline, and it's all tied together by trust and integrity. And of course, it's what makes our nation, as Mariana said, the greatest on earth. Churchill said, America is great because she is good. She's good, which means integrity and trust. And he said, when she ceases to be good, she will cease to be great. Jim, it's amazing that we finished on time, but I think time's just about up, isn't it?
One more question.
All right.
All right, Steve.
Thank you.